Hello everyone, welcome to the Style That Finds Us YouTube channel. The Style That Finds Us girls are currently in Paris, France. Oh my goodness. And we are doing a video following in the footsteps of Karl Lagerfeld, the great Karl Lagerfeld. He was the creative director of Chanel. He worked at Fendi. He also worked at Chloe in the past. He was an incredible
Renaissance man.
Renaissance man. We are actually standing in front of his house right now.
One of his houses.
One of them. He had multiple.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to show you his favorite bookstores and flower shops and restaurants.
Art supply store.
Art supply store. Restaurants and all sorts of things. So come along.
Here we go.
The 7L bookstore was created by Karl Lagerfeld in 1999. It is a beautiful bookshop, small, and it is filled with books of all the different subjects that he was interested in. So for example, photographs, interior design, architecture, fashion. He also was an author and or edited some books. So of course those are in there as well. And there is a lovely man that runs the bookshop, and we said, did you work with Karl Lagerfeld at all? And he said, oh, juste pour 25 ans. So for 25 years he worked with Karl, and we said, oh my goodness, what in the world was that like? He said he was very tough, he was very loyal. He made you want to be the best person you could be, do the best job. And he said that he would communicate with this man every day about different things, different books that he needed and all sorts of things. And so we said, oh, would he text or email? How was he communicating? And he said, no, fax, so that he could draw. So definitely a special spot to visit, and they probably ship. So you wouldn't have to lug around if you did buy a book, but that would definitely be a special place to grab a coffee table book or something new to read.
Yeah, I think in his houses he had books from the floor to the ceiling. He was a very avid reader. So, and he loved to share his books. He loved to share. He was a very kind, gentle man, contrary to what a lot of people think. And so he would send faxes every day to this man that we talked with drawings of the books that he wanted to share. And he would always explain why he wanted that book to go to this person, because they were interested in something that he wanted them. He thought they would enjoy the book. So he really did. He was very emotional about talking about what an honor it was and a big part of his life and how much he misses him now. In following Karl's footsteps, we went to another shop called Lydia Courteille. She is a jewelry designer. She started out as a biochemist, and she worked a lot with Karl and many other designers. And Karl became a friend of hers, and he was very loyal to her. And he always told the magazines and other people that he insisted that they let Lydia be a part of the shoot as well. All of her pieces are one of a kind. They are more like works of art. They are really fascinating, and that story is for another time. But anyway, we asked her about her time with Karl, and she said the same thing. She said at first he was sort of stern, but then once you got to know him, he was extremely loyal. And because her pieces are one of a kind and very dramatic and very expensive, with stones that she had collected for many years, and through working with him, she was able to go on to work with many other very famous designers as well.
Her store is, they call it the Cabinet of Curiosities. It is fantastic, and we would highly recommend you taking a visit to her special place. She is absolutely lovely, and you will be in for a real treat.
When Karl found out that someone was trying to copy a design of Lydia's, and he brought it to her attention, and he told her to be very careful about that. And she asked him what he did, because people were obviously always trying to copy his work for Chanel and Fendi and everything else. And he said, you must always be first. You must always be doing something new. And that way they can't keep up with you. So you can't stop them from copying you, but you can always keep going and coming up with new things. And I think that's great advice that he gave her. Do you?
Mm-hmm. You are in for another treat when you visit the bookshop Galignani across from the Tuileries on Rue de Rivoli. And it was opened in 1801. They claim that they are the first English booksellers on the continent, the European continent.
Which is strange since they all speak French and all the books are French, but that's what it says.
And they have a great history. They helped to work with Jackie O with her voracious appetite for French history books. And Karl Lagerfeld visited the shop once or twice a week at least. And they actually said they were the first to know the theme of the Chanel show before anyone else. And they say, well, this is kind of awkward. I wonder what Karl is preparing. He's bought all these books about astronauts. And then a couple months later, there would be a rocket in the Grand Palais for the runway show.
Yeah, so interesting. There are so many books. It's huge. It's beautiful. There are books on every topic. It's just a fabulous place to visit. And we went to Angelina, got some hot chocolate and some croissant, and then walked just a little bit down the sidewalk, and there it is. So we highly suggest that you drop in there. We had the pleasure of going to another shop that Karl Lagerfeld frequented, and it is called La Chambre. This woman named Colette moved to Paris, and her dream was to own this gorgeous flower shop, the most fabulous flower shop in Paris, named La Chambre. And so she saved up her money, and she finally was able to buy it. And now her granddaughters, Caroline and Stephanie, are the proprietresses of this establishment. And we were so excited to get to speak with one of them about what it was like to work with Karl.
So tell us, what was it like working with Karl Lagerfeld?
It was so wonderful. The nicest client. It was very, very like this.
Yes, he
Yes.
Called you every day?
Yes, every day at phone, because he loved the flowers, so he sent a lot of flowers to his friends. And for me, it was a pleasure because I had the choice. So it was like that with him.
Great.
And what was his favorite flower? Do we know?
He loved all the flowers, but the lily of the valley for him, it was, I think it was maybe in memory of something else, maybe when he was a child.
We spoke with one of the sisters who speaks English, and she said Karl came in every day. So his favorite flower was lily of the valley. He sent flowers out every day because he loved to send flowers to the people that he cared about. And a fun story about the store before Karl came in, Marcel Proust would come in every morning to get an orchid to put in his buttonhole. So he was quite a spiffy dresser, it sounds like. I didn't know that about him. And then Karl, what were you telling me about Karl came in and got?
He first came in 1971, and he bought a large white rose from Colette, the grandmother, and then about an hour later, Yves Saint Laurent came in and got these same flowers, so maybe Karl and told Yves about
Or either
it.
they were a little bit competitive with that.
Anyway, it is a delightful store. When you walk in, the smell is delicious. Oh, c'est bon. When iPhones came out, he gave one to each sister so that he could send them texts and images. He hated holidays when the ateliers were closed. I feel the same way with the style that binds us when it's a holiday or a weekend and no one's working. So that's good. It's similar with Karl and us. But anyway, he took advantage and absolutely loved that L'Auchan was still open on the holidays, so he would text them or drop in for a chat.
Another place that we went because Karl had frequented is Sennelier, which is an art supply store in Paris. And when was it, 1847? 1887, Gustave Sennelier opened it, and he created all the paints. And in 1949, his son Henri created museum quality oil paints, the first to be that quality. And he did it because Picasso wanted high quality paints that he could paint on any surface. So he created that, and then Cézanne came along, and Van Gogh, and Gauguin. All the other artists learned about these paints, and they came in and wanted the same paints because they were such high quality. And there are paintings in a lot of museums in the world that got the paint, that the artists got the paint from this store in Paris, Sennelier. And the reason why we went was to see it because Karl got all his art supplies from there. He was an avid sketcher, drawer, painter, everything. He was super talented, and that is where he went. So we followed in his footsteps, and then found out that actually we were following Picasso and Cézanne's, etc., all of their footsteps too. So it was really fun, really, really neat. Very cool store.
Yes, it's in the 7th arrondissement, and Karl, he had a couple of homes in Paris, but with 7L and Sennelier, they're right around the corner from each other, and also right around the corner from where Karl used to live in one of his appartements. And Gustave, in 1887, he was a chemist, but then he learned how to create the pigments in a different way to create paint. And so that is where all of this began, which I think is really neat, that he was a chemist and worked with different pigments. Café de Flore is one of the oldest coffee shops in Paris. We had brunch there this morning. It is truly incredible. One of the best things about this place is that even though it is so famous, it is truly pretty much open at all hours of the day. The food and the coffee, the ambiance, it actually is really wonderful. In the 60s, Karl Lagerfeld lived nearby, and he would walk there every morning following in the footsteps of other incredible historical figures such as Hemingway.
One hint about the Café de Flore is that the locals always go upstairs. They don't want to be around all the tourists, so they head straight upstairs. There's a second floor, and it's not quite as much fun because when you're downstairs you can sit in the tables outside and you can look at all the other interesting people that are coming and going. But it is really crowded downstairs. There's usually a line. So if you want to do as the Parisians do, you go straight upstairs to have your pain au chocolat. We went to the restaurant La Boeuf sur la Toit because Karl had loved this place. And it turns out that it's not in the same place anymore. The original restaurant was a big hot spot in the 1920s, and Coco Chanel and Jean Cocteau and Picasso and others went there. There was a restaurant and a big cabaret, and that's where they hung out. And so Yves Saint Laurent and Karl Lagerfeld were both, they reminisced a lot about that era of France. They missed that time in Paris. And so they would go to Le Boeuf too. When they were still friends, they would go together there because it reminded them of the glory days of Paris. So like I said, this new restaurant is now in a new location, new ownership, brand new. Like I think it had been open a week when we ate there last night. But you can go, it still has the cabaret in the back, and they have a drawing that Jean Cocteau did behind glass. That's really fun to see, and they have a lot of photos of the original restaurant, and so it's a really fun experience to go visit.
Interesting for vegetarians, but you can definitely go to a cabaret. I think I asked them Saturday night. It started at 10 p.m. The atmosphere was lovely, the ambiance, the food was great,
They don't open until 7:30, which a lot of restaurants in Paris don't open until 7:30 for dinner. But yeah, make a reservation and enjoy.
We went to La Cloiserie de Lila, and that was truly such a special treat. The oldest part is the bar, and that is where on the bar at one of the seats there is a little plaque that says this was where Ernest Hemingway used to love to sit. So we talked about all of the people that used to go there, and they didn't go there to go out to dinner, because remember at that time some of them, when they were alive, they were wealthy like Ernest Hemingway and they were famous, but a lot of them were truly very, very poor. So they would go and mostly just to drink, but it was such a special experience. The staff, they are so sweet and incredible. There was a man playing piano, so you had live music. So there's the beautiful bar, which we would definitely suggest going to get a drink, because it's such a special experience knowing that all of those incredible people used to be in that very room.
And who are they? First of all, this is in Montparnasse. So when they weren't in Montmartre, they came down to Montparnasse. And it was all of the people of that time, right? Yeah. Marcel Proust, Jean Cocteau, Picasso, Charles Baudelaire.
Yeah.
Who?
Jean-Paul Sartre.
Oh, right. All the philosophers and the artists and the writers, and they all got together, very passionate about what they did, but they were very, very poor, especially when they were young. And this was kind of their watering hole. And that's why we went. Well, later we found out that it's actually where Karl Lagerfeld went, because Karl and Eve, when they were friends, they romanticized about that earlier period in Paris and what it must have been like and how they wish they had lived during that time. So they would go to La Cloiserie to have drinks and dinner. By that time probably they ate dinner there as well, just like we did.
Yes, and so the menu is very meat friendly, but they were sweet, and they figured out some vegetarian options for us that were not too crazy. The dessert was incroyable. We were so full we could barely even finish it, but it was a lovely experience. And then the other one is called La Société, and that one is not, it's very modern. So it's, you would think that with Karl's haunts, these maybe, most of the things that we've been to have been things that have been around for years and years. This one is by the Costas brothers, and it is new, it's very modern, the high ceilings, light, airy, very chic crowd. The food was delicious. They had so many vegetarian options, we couldn't even decide what to get. And so that is, we will highly recommend that too. Those are all in the 6th arrondissement. So he did at one time have an apartment in that area as well, which we love, Saint-Germain-des-Prés.
Oui. He spent a lot of time at Café de Flore, and then when La Société opened up, he started going around the corner, and that was his new place because it was very chic and hip and young people, and he loved the new vibe.
Yes. So thank you for watching our video on Karl Lagerfeld's favorite places and haunts in the city. We all miss him so much. He was such a genius and an incredible human, and we have loved learning about him to maybe think about applying some of the things to our life. He had a very strict regimented diet like I tried to have, and he didn't drink alcohol, and he read every magazine he could possibly read, and all these books. He just wanted to know everything and meet everyone and observe, and we definitely feel the same way.
Right. He said, I consider myself a voyeur. I like to just watch people, and he was fascinated by everything around him, and he just soaked it all up. So that's something we try and do too, and then share it with you.
We will see you next time.